Welcome to YouTooSpain, broadcasting live on YouTube. On today's show, I'll be chatting with our new friend and funeral plan specialist, Ruth Forder, who'll be answering all of your questions about preparing for yours or your family member's funeral in Spain. It happens to us all one day, and as you can imagine, in my situation, I've been thinking about it rather a lot. So let's all find out together what's the best way of being prepared and why we absolutely should be. Join in on the live chat, or if you're watching the video back afterwards, you can still chat in the comments below. There's going to be lots of information that you need all the way through, so stick around for the whole show. You're all very welcome to YouTooSpain. Still alive, and of course, let's dance. Oh, groovy baby. Right, then just before we get chatting, don't forget to sign up for free to the monthly newsletter from our website, YouTooSpain.com. It'll be there for the whole of the show. Can't miss it. And a very quick mention for our friends at Smart Currency Exchange, whom I highly recommend. Do make sure to use the link in the video description below to get in touch with them, and you can get a free account well in advance of moving here or buying a house. There's no obligation to do that. It doesn't cost you a penny to set up the account, and it helps YouTooSpain out at no extra cost to you. All together now, everybody. It is a win-win-win with a cherry on top. There we go. And so, without further ado, let's meet our wonderful guest and friend. It's Ruth Forder. Good morning, Ruth.
Good morning. How are you today?
Well, you know, bearing up under the circumstances. Yes, we were just talking about this before. I started to answer that question differently. Normally it's muy bien. No, oh, yes, I'm feeling. But now I'm just finding different ways to say, yeah, actually, I don't feel too bad. It's when you start. It's when you start having the treatment that's when you start to look awful.
But funny enough, a friend of ours, a builder, he's actually going through a slightly different cancer to you, but he really looks great at the minute.
Yeah. He's glowing.
He is glowing, literally. And he's still after his treatment every day. He's back working again, and he's building walls and knocking down stuff and doing that sort of thing. So
it's good to see.
It's interesting how the body reacts. Obviously, his body's reacting in a very positive way.
Well, that's good, yeah. And there's a different chemical for each condition, and sometimes even on the same condition, and they're getting better all the time. So we shall see. And it's cumulative. So maybe at the start of the thing, I'll be okay, and maybe later on, that's when it all starts building up. But we shall see. I'm gonna keep on doing the live show, even if I'm in bed with my laptop, you know. So that'll be fun. There'll be me in my pajamas doing the show. Fantastic. I normally don't even wear pajamas, so maybe I'm going to have to get some pajamas. Anyway, so before we get into the questions then, and before we say hello to everybody individually on the live chat, tell us a bit about yourself and what you do.
Well, my name's Ruth Forder. I've lived in Mijas for 19 years. Prior to that, I used to live in a place called Surrey in Sunbury-on-Thames. Mm-hmm. And one very, very rainy afternoon, my husband and I went to a place called Kempton Park, where they had a show on for buying property abroad. Mm-hmm. I'd always fancied moving abroad, so I managed to coax him along, and we had a free trial for three nights to come over and have a view of properties, which we did. And we ended up buying one, which was actually at Santa Maria. You know, there's a golf course there. It's in Alveria. Mm-hmm. From there, what happened was that we found out that there was a sewage plant quite near to there. And when you had a certain wind direction, you got the full force of the nasty smell.
Nasty.
So we ended up pulling out of that particular property and buying another one in Alveria. And we've had that property now for, oh my goodness, 24 years. So we've had a long time affiliated to Spain, and then 19 years ago we actually managed to move out here full time. However, 13 years ago I started to explain about funeral plans and how the funeral system actually worked here in Spain, because it's very different to our home countries.
Yeah.
And what happened was that a neighbour of ours passed away, and we was invited to their funeral at Fuengirola. Everything seemed to be fine. I didn't even really know what to expect, because it was the first time that we'd been there. And it was actually known as a buffalo funeral. Now, the order of buffaloes are from America.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And there was all the buffaloes round the coffin one way, and then we were seated. We were seated in the pews next to it. And this buffalo had read something out on the reading, which was a bit monotone, but it was okay. And then another buffalo said to this guy, "Oh, we ought to have a hymn now." And at that point, this guy said, he said, "I can't do that." He said, "I'm knackered. I've done 7 of these this morning."
Wow.
And that was the end. That was the end of the funeral.
Wow.
There was no service. They had paid for a service, but there was actually no service. And I thought, oh my gosh, this is horrendous. Nothing would have actually been better than what I had just witnessed. So I ended up from there starting to explain about funeral plans, because you wouldn't want anybody to have gone through what that family went through. It wasn't very.
No, the people have travelled quite a long way to that one.
Well, they had, yeah. I mean, there were some local people from Fuengirola and Bellamadna, but then they had family come over from the UK as well as, and that was pretty much it,
Wow.
So it was a real eye opener. It was just how not to have it done. So I've been on a one girl mission since then, in which to get people converted to a funeral plan. Maybe it's not even my plan. Maybe there are other things out there that suit people better. Who knows? But at least have something, Yeah,
because, absolutely.
It saves a lot of stress at a stressful time.
Absolutely, and you seem quite cheerful about it. That must be good. I mean, it sounds like an interesting, challenging job anyway, because obviously you're talking to a lot of people who are either at the start of the process, they might be worried about their future, or it might be a relative contacting you at one of the worst moments of their lives when they've just lost a loved one. So do you find you have to be more straightforward with people, or more empathetic than you would be in another occupation?
Yeah, well, it's really odd you should say that, because yesterday afternoon I had exactly that scenario. A son had contacted me because unfortunately his mum hasn't got very many days left with us, and to deal with that on the phone is actually quite a difficult thing. I find to be factual, to be honest, just say what I need if they want to go ahead, and just to be kind, I suppose is the word, and to be empathetic with them. But you have to be straightforward talking, because we know what's going to happen. Both him and I knew what was going to happen. But he wasn't too bad considering, so he did a good job. Yeah,
I guess people can't take in a lot of information at that time, so you just have to
just guide people through and find out exactly what they want, because people want different things. So I always say we have 2 of these and we have 1 of these, and a lot of my job is actually listening to what people want, and and not only what they want, maybe what the children have said to them as well as, so I can encompass everything as a family, even though the children aren't there when we're actually doing the presentation or the documents and whatnot.
Right.
But listening is a very, very important part of my job.
Yeah, absolutely, yes. And so let's listen to the people on the live chat just for a minute before we get deep into the subject. First of all, I got a message from Chris, who is in Lanzarote, and she's met some of the YouTube fans and says, can you give a shout out to Emma, Julie and Ian Parr, It would really make their day. Absolutely. Hello to all of you. They send their best to you. She says, Emma was almost in tears. Oh, bless. Thank you so much. And on the live chat, we have Anton Cares, lovely hello. Buenos dias, Skatz and co. Feck off, Freddie, they say, and BG's, which is also staying alive. Gloria Gaynor, what's that one? Well, first I was afraid I was petrified. That's the one.
Yeah. Don't get me to sing.
Yeah, I can do that. That's my job. Mike Ripper says, funeral plans, this is the last thing we should be talking about. No, well, actually, it probably is the first thing we should be talking about. I've been thinking about it a lot, but everybody's got to face it one day, so yeah, let's do it today. Adam Farmerlow, good morning, Skatz. Still alive. Keep up the good work. Paula Gramble, hola. Kingsbury Crafts, I've not seen your name before on the live chat. Welcome, welcome. Jed Tierney, Tony Callis, Paul Cook, and my lovely wife Liz is under the name U2 Aromatherapy and Yoga. She says, I'll put this one up. Hello, everybody. Just wanted to say thank you for supporting Skatz during this rather brutal journey he's going through. Yes. It's the chemicals are going to be quite brutal, I think. So they tell me. I've been given this pack of tablets, which is the chemo that I've got to take with the radiotherapy at the same time, and I'm not even allowed to touch the tablets. The doctor and the prescription chemist at the hospital said, don't touch. They're really toxic. So I've got to pop them out of the thing and neck them and down them with the water. I'm a bit worried about the inside of my mouth. So anyway, morning from Andy Cooper, and Yogi says, how am I? Hope you're feeling okay. Well, yeah. Okay, he's coming to see me. So sorry, I haven't replied to your message, Yogi, but I'll do it now. That's yes, that date you've given me is okay for me. Chris is on holiday at the moment, so we'll find out if he's available at the same time. So I'll get back to you after that. And he's put, I don't know if you can see the live chat there, Ruth, but sometimes people put up emojis, and instead of the emojis, it puts up writing on some people's. So Yogi's emoji just says, hippo character in tactical gear does tactical flanking maneuver hand gestures. So that's all we get sometimes. It's brilliant. So a morning from Alicante Explorer over there in Alicante, Steffi and Paula Bramble. That's a question. Actually, we'll keep that question for a moment after we've done a few others, Paula, but I won't forget about that.
Good.
And John the Joiner, love from Jeanette and John in Devon, still alive. Lovely. Okay,
Good.
then.
That's what we like.
Perfect. And so let's talk about funeral plans. First of all, what happens if you die in Spain without a plan in place?
Well, the procedure is that if you die in home, it's very different to passing away in the hospital. So let's do dying at home first of all. Okay. Mm-hmm. You first of all phone the ambulance, or if people locally to me, I'm in the Costa del Sol, they might be in something called Helicopter Sanitarios. Mm-hmm. Which is an English-speaking doctors. They can phone them, which is fine.
Okay.
The ambulance comes, and then your next port of call is to phone the Guardia. Okay. Mm-hmm. The Guardia, as we know, they come in twos, because they always have to look and see what each other is doing. Mm-hmm. So from there, what happens is that the doctor will pronounce the body, the person that has passed away. And then the funeral director will then get in touch with his friend or cousin or relative, whoever, that happens to be a funeral director. Mm-hmm. Okay. So that funeral director comes, and then that funeral director will decide how much he thinks he can get out of the family. Mm-hmm. So in other words, there are no set prices. Okay.
Right.
Right. The highest funeral I've heard so far is somebody in Calahonda, lovely villa, pool, manicure garden, so on and so forth, €15,000. Ooh, ouch. Mm. A lot of money, yeah. So from there, you have to sign the paperwork. It's called the body release form, which is releasing the body from the doctor to the funeral director. But once you've signed that form, that is the contract. Okay.
Okay.
And then from there, whatever the funeral director has more or less decided, because there isn't a lot of time between picking up the body and then having it cremated or buried, if that's what the person wishes. And that's normally done within 24 hours. It's very, very fast.
Yeah.
So we have some other complications here. One of the other complications is that the guardia and the funeral director will probably be speaking in Spanish, which is fair enough. I mean, we are in their country. It doesn't help us, but you know. And also we have a complication where the NIE number of the deceased is taken and it gets fed through into the social security system. And then from there, it can shut down the bank account.
Wow.
Now, which is another problem, because how can we pay for the funeral when the bank account is closed? Is another thing. Now, with the bank accounts, with my 13 years of experience, I've now realised that it depends on the relationship that you actually have with your bank manager. Sometimes if it's a couple's account, half of it will be closed, and sometimes all of it will be closed.
Right.
So it's in the lap of the gods, unfortunately. I always say to people, let's prepare for the worst, and then if anything's better than that, then good. good news, basically.
Yeah.
So that's really where we are without having a plan. So
And that's the one at home then, so there's the hospital.
Oh yeah, and then the one in the hospital, obviously the doctor's already there and he's pronounced the death. What this lady was telling me yesterday, I did a chat with aged care, and she was saying that with her mum, the body wasn't even cold. There was a knock at the door, and she thought it was like the hospital administrator or something. No, it wasn't. It was the funeral director. And he was already talking about, well, what do you want? And we can do you at this price. And, you know, her mum wasn't even cold. So it's a very, very quick process, which we are not used to as being Brits.
No.
And we're used to a much slower pace of things, whereas the Spanish is in their culture that they are very, very fast with death. They look upon death very differently to what we do.
Yeah.
So they would celebrate their family passing on the Day of the Dead, All Saints' Day, which is the 1st of November, whereas we would traditionally think of somebody passing, for instance, it's my dad's anniversary tomorrow, so I would naturally think of my dad tomorrow because that's when he passed.
Yeah.
So they have a very, very different way of looking upon things, and there isn't a lot of bedside manner, I would say, with the funeral directors typically. Whereas in the UK, there's a lot more hand-holding, they're a lot more gentle. They'll still get a lot of money out of you, don't get me wrong. It is a business at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And once people actually wrap their heads around, it is a business and this is what their job is, and they want to get as much money out of you as possible, then sort of maybe the decision-making becomes a little bit easier. So that's really the difference, and it's not a very nice place to be. But at least if you know what it is, then you can deal with it. Whether you want to do something or not is obviously entirely up to the individual. But I think at least be prepared as to what you're going to have to face, which it's pretty brutal. It's not very nice.
No.
Very nice at all. So without a plan, just to recap, you have to phone the police, you phone the ambulance, you phone the police. You're going to have to deal with language. You're going to have to deal with getting the money to the funeral director extremely quickly, and the funeral's going to be very, very fast.
Yeah, I was used to the fast funerals because I lived in Ireland, in the Republic of Ireland. Oh yeah. Before we moved to Spain, and it's very quick there too. That's how it's very often that I would be. I would pass a shop one day and suddenly that would be closed because they go, we're off to a funeral, because you know the whole family just ups and leaves. Doesn't matter where it is in the country, they can get there they always go if there's a funeral because they're used to it happening so fast.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's the same as the Spanish. I mean, a guy could be, for instance, a builder working on a building site, but he'll just come off the site and go to the funeral and then go back to work again. You know, that's what they do. You know, whereas we would take more time, probably dress smart, you know, to pay our last respects to that person.
Yeah.
So we have a very different way of looking upon things.
Yeah. So what's different when you've got a plan then? Do you sort absolutely everything out? Is that the idea?
We do. So when you have a plan, you still need to phone the ambulance. That's the first thing. But then you actually phone the 24-hour helpline number, which is obviously 24 hours, 365 days a year, apart from this year, of course, so it's a leap year, so it's 366. That line is in English, and we've got a Spanish line as well with that now. So it could be a Spanish speaker that telephones us. With having a plan, the funeral director is already nominated, and that is done at our head office down in San Roque. And people know the price, and it's normally paid for, or almost paid for. Within the plans, there are various different ones, which I'm sure will come through a bit later. So it doesn't need to be 24 hours if the family decide not to. And regarding the banks, well, because the police aren't involved, then once you've obtained the death certificates, then you can go along and close the bank account as and when you're ready to. And of course, you're speaking to somebody in English, which takes a lot of stress out of the situation.
Yeah.
So you're in control, which is a much better position to be in. Whereas the other way, obviously, you're out of control because someone else is dealing with it for you. When I visit clients, our conversations are normally, we actually have quite a good laugh about things, and it's not particularly a sad conversation, because people are getting their affairs in order. It's a bit like doing a will. You know, you've got your will in order, so you know what's going on. And dare I say, especially us ladies like to plan. We like to know what we're going to do. Like doing a shopping list, I guess, going to the supermarket, you know. We know what we want to get before we get there. Yeah.
I can relate to that, yeah.
So us girls, we like to plan, we like to know, whereas men typically are happy for us girls just to get on with things until maybe the boot's on the other foot, and then things don't go quite so smoothly, maybe. Yeah. So that's the difference with having the plan, is that you're organised, you've got a number, we know in the office who we're already using, and you know your price, so you're not going to be paying over the top for anything, which is really important.
Now, a lot of the questions I've got, especially when I asked Liz, do you want to ask any particular questions, are all about customizing your funeral, really, because she asked a lot of different ones, which are all about, I suppose you have different packages, so you can choose the readings, songs, all that kind of thing. Is that right? All possible? Anything possible?
Well, not quite anything possible. You have to have a wooden coffin. That is Spanish law. Okay. So a lot of people do ask about wicker baskets, which actually my mother-in-law had in the UK. That cost an extra £1,000, by the way. Expensive. Wow. Yeah. They also ask about being in a cardboard box. Well, in the UK, that again is very expensive as well as, and it's all to do with the emissions, with the actual burning. But over here in Spain, we have to have a wooden coffin. Okay. And a question that I get asked quite regularly is, well, if I'm being cremated, how do I actually know those are my loved one's ashes? Because one goes after another normally in the furnace. So each cremation is certified, and it has a number, and that paperwork is actually given with the paperwork when we hand over the death certificates. Yeah. So that's how we know that everybody is who they actually who they actually are.
It's good to know. Yeah.
Otherwise, how do you know? You don't know. It could be Fred from up the road. We don't know. So that's how we know. So it's regulated in that way, which is obviously good. Regarding packages, we have 4 different packages, including the body actually being flown back to the UK. And I think within my 13 years of experience, I've only done 5 or 6 of those plans. But traditionally they're expensive. And normally only people want those if they've got a plot already sorted out back in the UK and they want to use that particular plot.
Yeah.
Because you have to buy that separately and do the funeral separately over there. Regarding having a service, which a lot of people do like to have, we can either have a celebrant, which is more of a humanist service, or we have a minister, which is more of a religious service, and it's English speaking. So it just depends what the family actually want at that time.
Yeah. Bravo says, can you give your body to science like you can in the UK?
You can give your body to science. However, we have different rules in different areas. So, for instance, in Malaga, for example, you need to be found in the state of Malaga, first of all. You have to, when you sign the documents and then you pass away, you have to be found in the same state as you sign the documents. So, for example, I don't know. Let's think of something. So, your body hasn't got any viruses or anything like that in it. But if they then find, when they cut you open, that it's got a tumour, for example, then that body isn't in the same state as you signed up. So that can be rejected. Normally, the mortuaries are full of people wanting to give their body to medical science. So not always is the body taken anyway. And if, for instance, they're working on, for example, the heart, they will take the heart out of the body. And in the state of Malaga, it is then down to the family to dispose of the rest of the body. So you still need a funeral plan in which to sort that out. So it can be done, but it's all a bit tricky. And it's in the lap of the gods whether it works or not.
Fair enough.
However, if somebody has signed for one of our plans and the body is taken to medical science and they dispose of all of the body, then we can refund the family.
Okay. So let's get to Paula's question that we had earlier. What happens if you have a funeral plan in Spain well in advance but end up returning to the UK and don't need it? Okay,
well, with our plans, you're covered in the UK as well as, so your plan would just revert back to the UK. So you can still use the plan, but we're just in a different country. Similarly, we can revert back to Northern Ireland, Southern Ireland, and also Portugal as well as. So the plan just goes with you.
Great to know. And Jed is asking, my mother died in the UK but had her repatriated to Ireland for burial. It took nearly 10 days for this to be sorted. How can this be done from Spain?
Well, we have a plan for that. So, for instance, one of my clients, he's put a plan in place already. Really, you need to, if that's what you want, then you need to make somebody aware of that, and also the costings of it, because it is quite an expensive package. But we can do that, and we have a package for that. You have to have a zinc-lined coffin. The body's embalmed. There's all sorts of legal ramifications that go on, certifications and so on and so forth. It's quite a complex thing, but it can be done. Yeah.
Good to know. Beverly's asking, do they have simple cremations in Spain, so unattended cremation?
We do, and in fact, I'm going to carry the flag here for Compare Funerals, because they are the company that brought direct cremation here to Spain. And then the other providers, larger providers, have now followed suit. So we have done a really good job in bringing the price of funerals down. With a previous company I was with, the cheapest plan that I could actually explain was at €3,650. And now we're down to €2,250. So €1,400 difference. That's a big difference, isn't it?
That is. You've been shaking it up, shaking up the industry.
I'm shaking it up, and I like a little shake.
Good, me too.
It's good, yeah, shaking it up. So Compare Funerals have bought the direct cremation, and as Beverly has said, yes, this is an unattended cremation. We can let the family know what time the cremation is going to be, but we don't always necessarily know where it's going to be. It might not be at your local crem. It might be a little further out.
Yeah.
So we can do that, and then the funerals are registered, or the documents are registered, and we would then return the urn with the 2 death certificates back to the family. Now, the death certificates, just while we're on that subject, we have a Spanish one and an international one. So for the international death certificate, that would close down UK banks or banks outside of Spain, maybe UK pension or other pensions and that type of thing. And then the Spanish certificate will actually sort out anything related into Spain. So Spanish banks, home, so on and so forth. We also provide a certificate for the ashes to go on board the aircraft, because even though somebody might pass away here and be cremated here, it might not be exactly where their ashes want to be. So we can provide that as well as. So that worked well when my mum died in the UK. I had the certificate from the UK funeral director, and I brought her over to be in Spain with me here.
Oh, that's nice.
It worked well, yeah.
Mike Ripper's saying, body donation. I would have thought that by default you'd be in a different condition to when you signed up. Good point.
Good point, yeah.
Any more dark humour jokes would be very welcome.
It's not a dead-end job.
Yay! Come on, Ant, you've not done any jokes yet. He's normally the first one in.
Oh, is he? Oh, he's quiet.
Yeah, you've been very quiet today. There we go. And Jed says, I visited some places in Spain where the deceased are entombed in walls, always well kept and respected. That's good to know.
Yes, it's true. And if you have a burial, that's where you would be. Yeah, that's where you go. Now, with burial, it's slightly different because you have to go to the town hall in which to pay the rent. So in the UK, for example, you would buy the plot and then the body goes in the ground and is laid to rest there. But obviously in Spain, you go in the niche and you rent the niche. So there was a friend of mine, actually, she was told through another friend of hers that somebody hadn't paid the rent and the body had decomposed, the bones were left, and then they put the bones in a smaller coffin and put it in a different place.
Wow.
Oh, I know. I'm not sure about that. So that's what happened. That's what happened there. And then eventually, if it's not paid at all, it's cremated many years down the road.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah.
There we go. By the way, watchers, if you're getting something from this show, anything at all, remember to click the like button down. Oh, it's that side of the screen. This is what happens when you've not got your screen mirrored. I can't even get my finger to do the right thing. It's always the opposite way around. Let's see now. And also, thank you to the person who's hovered over the GoFundMe and done the QR code and donated. That's lovely. Support is always wonderfully received. Let's see, next set of questions. I think we've already answered that one. You can have your funeral conducted by a non-religious person, that's the celebrant.
Yeah.
Can I be buried, or can I have a burial at sea, or can I be buried in the roots of a tree? That's a very hippie one, isn't it? That's very me.
can be buried at sea. There is an option. There is an option for that. I've not done one yet, and I'm even not sure exactly how much it is. I think it's quite expensive. Maybe I shouldn't quite be broadcasting this, but I do know that just some people go and do the ashes, in the sea. They shouldn't, but they do.
But they don't just tip the body in, so that's not,
No.
you can't do that. Oops, you've gone off the screen there. Is that a call? Oh yeah, you're back on. We had a little bit of.
Oh, I'm just missing you.
Yeah. I think you've had something happen there. Yeah, you're back on screen now anyway. Can you hear me? You might have to go out and back in again. It's all right. We'll get Ruth back in a moment. This happened before the show. A few buttons to press. Let's see if there's any more messages come in. Do you need permissions for scattering the ashes? Well, that's an interesting one. Hello, can you hear me now?
Hello.
Yeah, I can hear you.
No sound.
No sound. Yeah, go out and come back in again. Try, I can't send a message. Let's see. I can send a private message. Out and back in. There we go.
I can't get hold of you.
I hope you've got that. There we go. She's gone out. When she comes back in, it'll be fine. Sometimes the tech works and sometimes it doesn't. She won't take a minute. Let's see if we've had any more comments. Mike Ripper says, my wife's father bought a niche for 50 years after his death. Oh, here she comes.
I'm back.
Hello, you're back again.
I think
That's all right.
We turned off notifications, didn't we? But my son called me on Messenger and I turned it off and then it all went to pot.
And it's all back. Oh, Messenger is on Wi-Fi, and you can't turn your Wi-Fi off because you're on Wi-Fi.
That's right.
Yeah.
I'm glad there's a logical explanation for that then.
There is, yes. I was just reading out Mike Ripper's message saying, my wife's father bought a niche for 50 years after his death, but when it came for renewal, the family decided to take his ashes and scatter them at sea rather than pay it again.
That's nice.
There you go. And Steffi says, do you need permission for scattering ashes? And can you legally put the ashes in the sea? You were just talking about that, weren't you?
Yeah, no. Well, no, you shouldn't do. It should be way out at sea, apparently.
Okay.
It should be way out at sea. And there are specialist people that actually do it.
Okay.
So I won't say any more about that because it's illegal.
Fair enough. There you go. Any more questions before we go for the half-time break? Let's see. You've answered that one. You can have a private funeral for just close family. I think we've gone through that. You can just design it as you want. And can I have the funeral anywhere? Does it have to be in the province where you were living?
Well, if it's an uncremated unattended funeral, then it can be wherever you pass away in Spain.
Mm-hmm.
So the answer to that would be yes, if it's unattended. If it's a funeral with a service, traditionally it would be more local to where that person lived because of probably having family and friends in that particular area, which would make better sense. So, say for instance, the person passed away in Madrid, but lived in Compita, for example, then that body would be carried free of charge through to, I think you'd be Visas Malaga where you are. I've got a feeling you'd probably be there. And you would have the service and everything there.
I know somebody in Compita who had the service up in Granada province. So maybe that's where they had family prior to moving to here.
I mean, it's possible. We just organise it at that time. So it's possible, that's for sure. It's not that far away actually, Granada to
Yeah, just quite short. Beverly's saying, how about unattended in Fuerteventura?
Yes, we cover the islands as well. So yeah, that's fine. And I've got quite a few clients on that particular island as it goes. So yeah, that can be done too. Not a problem.
Lovely. Right then, let's go to our regular little advert, our halftime advert. It's a message from me and my alter egos, the voices in my head, and Doogie Dog, who's also a voice in my head, about the wonderful things available to you as YouTooSpain fans. So take it away. This show is very helpful to you, isn't it? And you're enjoying it too.
Then click on the thumbs up, you lazy
Colonel, I don't have any thumbs. You can use your nose, Doogie. And don't forget to subscribe as well. And rub on the bell for notifications while you're there. It's all free.
Information is valuable.
I need a coffee to keep my pecker up. So why not show your appreciation by buying us a coffee or 3? There's a link in the video description below.
No, use the QR code. I own the company, you know.
No, you don't, Colonel. It's there for the whole show, sweetie. Just point your camera phone at it. But wait, if you think all the help and information and entertainment you get here is worth more than just a few coffees, you can support YouTooSpain with a regular monthly amount.
You're not getting my money.
You don't have any, Colonel. You live in a hostel. There's a link to Patreon where you can find out what extra groovy movies you get by helping out. Oh, I'm all a quiver. One more thing.
Get on with it. There's a guest waiting. Goodness knows why.
The beautiful watchers are waiting too.
And the ugly ones.
That's enough, Colonel. There are lots of vital things that YouTooSpain gets you access to. And discounts too. What things, Master? I like things. Well, do you need private healthcare insurance?
Of course I do. This gout won't go away on its own, you know.
Do you need a visa or residency, sweetie? Do you need to exchange currency?
What about finding a property like mine? It's huge and expensive.
Just like me, darling.
Ah!
Or do you need advice on tax and pensions? I don't know what they are. Or do you want a Spanish mortgage? Or a discount on getting documents translated and apostilled?
Or a lawyer to sort you out. I didn't do it, wasn't me.
Do you need a lovely little app for learning Spanish? How about finding the best mobile phone provider?
Buy a YouTooSpain t-shirt. It's a win-win-win.
You can even get discounts on full mouth dental treatment and get a new smile just like Skatz.
Smile!
All of the links are here, down below, sweetie. If you can't find them, ask me in the comments.
Are you finished yet? I need to go and kick some servants.
He's not a very nice human. No, he's not. But let's get back to the show, shall we? Back to Skatz in the studio.
That was my line.
Oh, stop being beastly and be a good little boy. I am a good boy. You are, Doogie. Back to you, Skatz. Lovely. I am a good boy. So fantastic. By the way, I'm going to amend that mid-show advert to include the GoFundMe, because that's you can't obviously hover over that and do the buymeacoffee.com right now, but I just haven't changed it yet. One day I'll get around to it. There. So let's get back to the chat, just in case there's been any more comments. I think there've been some questions. Beverly says yay to everything that you've said. Jed says, do they have a wake in Spain? So the party.
The party, or the all-important party, yes.
Oh yeah, the wake is the where people go past the body. I think that's what they call it in Ireland.
That's what they call it. Well, you can do, if you have one of the other plans, a granite plan, then you can actually view the body and have the service and so on and so forth. Traditionally, I would call the wake as the gathering after the service. Mm-hmm. So obviously people go to a restaurant or bar or whatever and have a good chat about the person that's passed away.
Yeah.
But that isn't included in the plan, because that could be whatever, you know.
You can do it anywhere, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
There we go. Barry from Unitech. Good on you, Barry. My wife has organised a wonderful funeral for me. It's next Wednesday, apparently.
Have you been a naughty boy?
He's always a naughty
He's
boy.
always naughty. Is he on the naughty set?
Oh, yes. Yeah, absolutely. There we go. All right, then. Back to my own questions. Let's see. Oh, yes, this is a good one. Can a funeral be delayed so loved ones have time to travel from the UK, for example, where they're not used to this kind of quick turnaround?
Correct. So there's two plans that we have. One is called the terracotta and the other one is called the granite plan. And both of those have a 4 days mortuary in there. So we would talk to the funeral director, would talk to the family and arrange the date. Now, it could be that, for instance, one of the kids might be in Australia, for example, and it's going to take some getting them over in which to attend the service. And if that's the case, they can pay for mortuary days, which would be an extra expense from the family. And if it's too long, then the body would have to be embalmed, which would be another expense as well as. But it is possible. It's not in the rounds of possibility. It just costs a little bit more money. But within the plan, we actually have 4 days, which is normally enough for people to get to fly from wherever they need to get to.
Yeah. There we go. Yeah. So let's talk about payment. Do you have to pay it up front, or is there installments, or can you pay, right when the
at the time?
At the time, yeah. Just carry around some cash just in case.
We can do it at the time. Personally, I really don't like it. Like I spoke to that gentleman yesterday, I always feel really, really sad at that point in time, and it's not very nice. It's much nicer to have the conversation when we know it's going to be quite some time off. And also it gives time for people to pay. Now, you can pay for it up front if somebody wants to, or we can do a deposit and take advantage of our 5 years or 60 months interest-free payments. We're the only funeral planning company on the coast that actually offers that. So that's a nice advantage.
Yeah.
However, to caveat that, if, for instance, somebody died after 4 years, for example, there would be 1 year left to pay. Then we would speak to the family and ask for that payment, or they can cancel the plan and do whatever they want to do, which would be a bit silly, really, because they get all the help that they need from us. So that you can take that as advantage. The other thing is that you can also not only pay in euros, but you can pay in sterling, because a lot of people over here, they just bring over however many euros they need for the month to live on, but actually their pot of money is either offshore or in the UK. So we can do that. I just use the exchange rate of the day. Sorry, smart. I just use the exchange rate of the day, and whatever it is, then we take a card and we set those payments to that rate at that time. It doesn't fluctuate. It just stays there.
Great. Okay. Oh yeah, this is an interesting one. I think I can't remember who asked me this question, but are the policies only for one person, or can you do a plan for a couple, even if they die separately? Okay.
So in an ideal world, we would say have one plan each, because we're all going to need a plan at some point. However, sometimes circumstances doesn't always dictate for that. So we can do one plan and then put both names on the plan. So whoever passes first would then use that plan. The problem is that if there is a car accident, for example, and both of you are wiped out, one's got a plan and one hasn't. So then we would speak to next of kin, and we have a duty of care. And if they wanted to do another plan with us, then we can do that at that point in time.
Yeah, that's good.
But you can do that. And what quite a lot of people do is that they start off with one plan, especially if they're working. And I recommend doing a plan while you're working, because I meet an awful lot of pensioners, and of course once you hit pension, that's the amount of money you're going to have per month, and that's it. There's no extra coming in. So I always say to people, if you can afford to do it while you're working, while you can replace the money, then do it, because by the time you reach to pension age, it's paid for and it's done, and then it's not coming out of that little nest egg that you've got coming in.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I met a guy once. He was, I don't know, Coinway or somewhere. Anyway, he had been in his years a multi-millionaire. He said, I could have bought Maseratis, whatever, Lamborghinis, had the big flash house. And there he was in his 80s, and he was down to his last £10,000, well, 10,000 euros. And he said, and out of that, he said, I'm doing one funeral plan. And he said, and then I've got some money from a car. He said, and I don't know how I'm going to survive after that. He said, but I have to do just one plan. And that's really sad, you know. So after that, I think, you know, when people are working, get your plan in place, because you can recover that money, you know, which is important.
Which brings me perfectly on to the next question, because it's about life insurance. Can you get the whole cost covered by life insurance, and how does that work? Because normally you have to get that paid back afterwards, so you'd pay and then get the money back, or somehow. How does that work?
Exactly. So there are some policies that does have funeral cover on there. Now, if you have life cover, and you're from the UK and you've brought it over from the UK, make sure that it actually covers you in Spain. Some companies do and some companies don't. And of course, the UK is now out of Europe, which is another sort of problem with it. So that's my advice with that. You can, with some Spanish policies, have funeral cover on it. And what I would always recommend is to make sure that there is enough money invested in the plan in which to do the funeral. So in other words, there was one client I had. He had a Spanish policy. I think it only covered him at that point in time for about 2,000 euros, which then wasn't enough for a plan. So he would have still had to have topped that up. So it's best to really look at the T's and C's and make sure that there's enough money in the policy in which to do whatever you want to do.
That is a very good point. So let's talk about how safe is your money? Once you've paid for a plan, how do people know that the money is safe, even if there's a problem with the company?
And where is it? Yeah, well, that's a really good question, because I have a lot of people asking me that, because Compare Funerals is quite new to the market. So we need to make sure that it's safe. So the money goes into a trust fund. And that is the same with all of the big providers. We're no different to that. Their trust funds might be in a different jurisdiction, but our trust fund is actually sitting nicely in Gibraltar, which I quite like that, because it's not that far away. We can just drive there. And that is looked after by a company called Sovereign Group, and Sovereign Group are based in Jersey, and the trust is looked after by them, and it's audited. The way that the trust works is that you have a deed, a bit like a deed to your house in an escritura. And on the deed, it says that you can only use the money for funeral plans. And the way that we need that documented is from the funeral director to have an invoice or a death certificate from the funeral director. That's the only way money can come out of that fund. So my directors sitting in the offices, if they fancy their Lamborghini or their Maserati or their Bentley, they can't have it, because that money can't be touched. So that's the safeguard. So it's all down to the trust deed and the way that the trust is set up. But all us big providers, we all work exactly the same way.
Great.
Yeah. By the way, Sovereign Group, just to say, Sovereign Group have been going for over 35 years. So they really do know what they're doing, which is also very important, because you can have companies that that don't know what they're doing, but obviously 35 years, we've got a good track record. It's important.
Okay, then take us through the process of putting a plan in place then, from the first phone call to you through to the funeral itself.
Through to the end. Okay, well, people contact me. I can either talk to them on the phone or WhatsApp, or do a WhatsApp call if they're too far away for me to reach, or I do actually offer a home service, which a lot of people do like that. I'm not in the business of pressurizing people, I have to say that. I just explain it just like I'm talking to you. I'm no different. And then if people decide that they want to go ahead, I take down various details such as name, address, postal address if that's different for the documents, NIE number, date of birth, and next of kin. And our next of kin is normally each other if it's a husband and wife. And then we also normally put another one or two on as well. It could be children, it could be a sister or brother somewhere, or even a friend or a lawyer. It's whoever they feel comfortable with, and that is someone else that we can let know at that point in time when they pass away. And then from there, the documents are received within 10 working days, and they have 2 cards. And on the cards, it actually has the 24-hour helpline number and their plan number. If they've paid it in full, then that's the end of that. I always ask clients to stay in touch with me. I'm always asking for referrals. If I've done a good job, it's nice that your name's out there, and that's really how I've been in this business for so long, because I think I'm one of the longest on the coast doing this job.
That's good to know.
Yeah, so it's nice. Yeah, and then people stay in touch. I ask people to, if they're on Facebook, to link in with me with Facebook. I've got my own Facebook page, and then I have Funeral Plans by Ruth Forder. I have that there as well, so there's information going on there. So people can just touch in and see what I'm up to and all my silly things that I do.
Yeah.
And then from there, if they're doing a payment plan, every month the payment is made. Oh no, I've got GB News come up. Sorry about that. Notifications.
It's all right, I can't see it.
It's gone, good. And then if they're doing a payment plan, every month they receive an invoice and a receipt on an email from the company. So we're always in touch until the plan is fully paid. But a lot of clients have they might have a query, so they can come back to me and ask me questions. I've got somebody I've got to speak to this afternoon, and they've got a query about something. And if I can't help, then we have people at head office, so that will be back open on Monday. So there's always help at hand. The other thing that we do as well is that I do take people's comments on board once somebody has passed, and if there's anything that we can improve upon, then we will do that. So even though we think we're pretty good, which we are, but there's always room for improvement, and we mustn't be blasé about that. You know, if we can even go that little one extra step to whatever that might be, then we do listen. And that's where a smaller company comes in, because we're small enough and quick enough to be able to turn that around very, very, very easily.
Lovely to know.
Which is good. Yeah, it's good.
Jed is asking, do they, presumably meaning you, have financial power of attorney for third parties to deal with funerals, etc. in Spain? Oh, well, that's generally can you get financial power of attorney?
Can you get financial? Right, okay. Well, you can, yeah. And for instance, the gentleman that I spoke to last night, he actually paid for the plan through his mum's account. So I presume he had power of attorney in which to do that. And that's actually quite common, that it comes out of someone, that they can't do it themselves, but the son or the daughter will do the funeral plan, and it will come out of their money. So yeah, you can do that.
I was getting my will done. It was actually Chris and Lara and me and Liz we all went together, and we were talking then about actually whether we should each have power of attorney for the other one as well. So we're actually going to go and do that separately, so
Get
that
that done.
if one goes, rather than, because that's not actually on the will, although on our wills it says everything passes to the other one. But there's power of attorney to deal with all of the other kind of things like bank accounts.
Exactly, and there are different powers of attorney as well as. So there is some lawyers will do the whole power of attorney. That means that they can even sell your property. Yeah. So I wouldn't recommend that. That's for sure, because it's been done. So I hear. So just be careful. My tip here is just be careful what powers you actually, you're actually giving and who you're giving it to.
Yes, the other ones are called limited power of attorney, where you say exactly what's actually got the power and who's got it. Steffi, you were saying, so what happens if your company is no longer in business? What happens to the plan?
Okay, well, the money is sitting in the trust, so it doesn't sit in Compare Funerals bank account, so it sits in the trust. If we have wound up as a company, either we can refund you the money back, or we can put it to the funeral director. So one or the other, but you will be reimbursed one way or the other. We do not hold on to that money. That is the important point.
So kind of the plan wouldn't be in place, but the money's, you'd get the money back.
The plan can be in place. Yeah, it can still be in place, but it's just the fact that some people might feel uncomfortable with that, and then we would return them their money. So it's up to them, whatever they want to do. But we're not going anywhere. I can tell you that right now. I've still got a lot of telling about the Spanish system yet.
Excellent. So we'll wind the show up gradually from here. I think don't want to keep it going for too long this morning, but hopefully we'll get through some of these questions at the end. Are there any things to look out for when buying a plan? I mean, people must have fears of it all going wrong. They must have horror stories you've heard. What can people do to avoid that when they're getting a plan?
Well, the horror stories, unfortunately, are when people haven't got a plan, and that's really what I know. I actually did have a plan for my dad, and that went very, very well. Funny enough, I had a plan for my mum, and that didn't go quite so well, which was quite horrendous at the time, and has taken a long time to get over that. And that was with a different company. But when things don't go as expected, I mean, it's one phone call, and then from there the funeral director comes. There's very little, to be fair, there's very little room for error, because that's already what's been set in place. With my own personal circumstance, what happened was that this is back in the UK, I have to add. So I'm told they couldn't reach the nominated funeral director, so they tried to get someone else. And then I had an email saying that my mum was being carted off to a town like 50 odd miles away, which really upset me. But it all got resolved, and the proper funeral director came and picked her up, and I think maybe someone was jumping the gun a bit by the looks of things. But anyway, we got it sorted.
Good.
Yeah.
Do you have any particular kinds of client? I got client. I can't even speak now, honestly. I mean, apart from them, obviously they've got to be alive in the first place. But do you get?
Well, yeah, they're alive and kicking. So
do you get millionaires come to you as well as less affluent people?
Yeah, absolutely. I get all types of people. So I was with a client the other day, and they said to me, now we can afford this. We actually don't need to do it on a monthly basis. So I said, but this isn't actually about affording to do it outright. This is really about having something in place, so we're reducing the stress at a stressful time. And once I had been through where they were without having the plan, i.e. the police come and the funeral director decides how much they're going to charge, then you could see the pennies dropping as to why having a plan. So I have had multimillionaires do the plan because they don't want to pay any more than what they need to. And that's how they've got their money in the first place, probably. And then I've had less affluent people that maybe can't afford to do a plan outright, but are happy to do it on a monthly basis. And don't forget, with Compare Funeral, that is interest-free, which is really important, because there are other providers out there where you can do it on a monthly basis, but you have to pay extra money. So we don't want to pay extra money.
No,
that's for sure.
Nobody wants to pay extra.
Not when we can avoid it.
No. So, it's the last question I've got here. So I tell you what, before I ask the last question, does anyone on the live chat have any more questions? There's, let's see, that's Auntie's just saying he's got to leave now. Yes, I'll speak to you soon, both of you, Ant and Kez. So any more live chat questions, ask them now. There is a bit of a delay for questions to come in. So while we're doing that, while we're waiting for those questions to come in, just tell us, why should people choose your company, you in particular, for the funeral plan? Because you're shaking up the market, isn't it?
I'm shaking up the market. I love that. I love shaking up the market. But use my experience. I've been doing this job for 13 years, so I've got a ton of. We've only just really touched on part and parcel of what I know, basically. But there's all sorts of different scenarios with families, and as I said in the beginning, I've got 2 of these and 1 of these. So it's actually listening to what people have to say and dealing with their emotions and their situation. We're all unique. We're all very different. And sometimes, we need to handle these things. We need to handle these things with a lot of care. I'm always, as my clients know, I'm on WhatsApp. People can contact me. I'm not the normal 9 to 5 person. Quite often, 8 or 9 o'clock at night, I might have a query. I will answer it, and if I can't answer it, I will speak with one of the directors who can answer it. And they will answer me, and I will answer them, and that's normally within a very quick time frame. But I love my job, which might sound a funny thing to say, but I do love my job because I do know that at the end of the time, when the time comes, it works and it's needed.
Yeah.
Because when a loved one passes away, we can't think. We want to think. We think we're thinking, but actually we're not thinking. We're not making a lot of sense. And in fact, some of my clients where the husbands have passed away quite unexpectedly, even though that was a few months ago, they're still in a daze, and I'm still here to hold their hand.
That's good to know. And Beverly's actually saying, thank you for a very enlightening chat, very reassuring. We'll be in contact when we've moved to Fuerteventura.
Oh, fantastic, Beverly. I look forward to hearing from you. Don't forget to mention this programme when you get in touch with me, please.
Yes. And John the Johnny says, haven't spotted Ruth's contact details down below. Yes, I usually put them in there before the show, but Ruth's going to give me them as soon as we finish, as soon as we've come off air, and I'll put them there, and I'll also pin them to the top of the comments as well, I think, if I haven't already got a pinned comment there. But yes, in the video description. They will be there shortly. So absolutely, yes. No more comments and questions have come in. So
we did,
didn't we? If anybody's got any more questions after the show, or if you're watching the show back afterwards and not live, then you can still put them in the YouTube comments below. Don't put them, as I always say, don't put them on some random Facebook expat group that you've seen the link to YouTube for this particular video and clicked on it, and then it's brought you back to the Facebook group. Don't put your questions on there, because it's possible that I'll see the question, but nobody else who's watched this video, and all of the thousands of people who watch it afterwards, will be able to see the question and get the benefit of the answer. So put it in YouTube, and then everybody can see it. And let's have my usual quote. It is a win-win-win with a cherry on top. Yes, indeed. We'll get back to that. And don't forget, click on the like button before we go, unless you've already clicked on it, in which case it wipes out your previous click. Don't do that. So, and also subscribe and click on the bell if you haven't already, so then you'll get notifications and you'll be the first to know what's coming up each week on the live shows and the midweek videos. Normally I put them up as a kind of premiere, so that in the hours leading up to the show you get a kind of a lead up and a countdown telling you that it's on in your notifications. So that is all of the questions for now. And anything else you'd like to say, Ruth, before we round up?
Well, thank you very much for having me. It's been an enlightening chat. Thank you very much for everybody that's sent your questions in, because they're all relevant, which is always good to have. And if you've got any queries, if you've already got a plan and you're not sure if it's suitable for you, or you've got some funeral insurance and you're not sure about that, again, I'm here to help. So please, you can send them over to me. I can have a look and see if it's the right thing, and we can just take it from there. So that's important as well, because I was with aged care yesterday, and there was a couple of people there that had some slightly different insurances. So I've got to go and check those out now and make sure that they do actually say what they do, because it's important. We don't want a surprise when the time actually comes, and that's really important. So we know exactly what we're doing, which is always good.
Absolutely, plans are good.
Plans are good. We like plans. We like a plan.
We love plans. Yeah, I've just got my cancer treatment plan, and it's good. It's reassuring to know, even though I know that it's going to be really tough. It's reassuring to know there's a kind of an end date, even though that might stretch out a little bit under some circumstances. But yeah, it's good to know. It's reassuring.
That's true.
There you go. So,
wish you all the best.
Thank you. And anybody else wants to wish me the best, do it with cash. I've got no pride at all. There we go. So thank you so much. Before we find out what's happening on next week's show, then let's all say a huge thank you and a big virtual hug and a kiss to Ruth for helping us all so much with what could be a very touchy and emotive subject. So give her a wave goodbye. Sit in the green room for a minute, Ruth, and I'll take off your details and put them under the video at the end.
Okay. So, bye-bye.
Bye-bye for now.
Thank you.
Very lovely. So, who do we have next week? Well, you might guess it's Chris from Upsticks. Of course, you might have heard of him. We've got a thrilling and exciting show for you, the subject of which I don't quite know yet, but I know it's going to be thrilling, and I will announce it during the week. Just even a surprise for me, but I know you'll like it. You always do. And we always have a big chat, and we go off on a tangent and make you laugh. So once again, have your questions ready for that show, or just prepare yourself for a lovely chat. In the meantime, you can ask us anything in advance on the Facebook page or the Facebook group, or under any one of the videos. So thank you to all of you. I'm going to just go back to the chat to see if everybody is saying hello. Yes. We did have some more questions. Jed Tierney asks, I can answer this one. What would happen if I died when on holiday in Spain? That's something you need holiday insurance for. Make sure you're covered for repatriation. I think that covers that one. I think if Ruth's got any more to say about that, we'll do it underneath the video. And Mike says, what happens if you die in the UK? I think we covered that one earlier, Mike. That is in the plans. And everyone else is saying thank you, good show. Thanks, Barry. Thanks, Paula. So, yes, thank you to everyone, and to those people watching the video back and leaving comments, hitting the like button, and donating to the GoFundMe. There's a link under the video and in the live chat and the top of the comments everywhere. So I will see you either on the Wednesday evening videos, which might be slowing down a little bit, or maybe going shorter and shorter over the coming months. I'll update you on that as we go along. Or I'll see you on the video diaries on Fridays. Those are going to continue whatever happens, even if I'm in bed, or live on Saturday mornings at our regular time of 9 o'clock if you're in the UK or Ireland or the Canary Islands, or 10 o'clock if you're in Spain or Central Europe. And that's all for this week. Somebody pass around the funeral plan cookies. So peace and love, peace and fluff. And here's one final message from all of the voices in my head at YouTooSpain. Bye for now. Bye, lads. Bye.
Goodbye. Toodaloo.
Peace and love.
Peas and fluff. Oi, oi. Don't do anything I wouldn't do.
One more cosmic dance?
All right then. Look, Mum, I'm dancing.
Oh, I'm all a quiver.
Let's dance.